I was discriminated against all my life because of my golden child sister. Finally, I got my sweet revenge on my wedding day. My name is Elena, and I learned very young what it meant to be second best in your own family. Growing up, the imbalance wasn't just noticeable, it was practically policy. If Danny, my older sister by just 1 year, wanted something, she got it. If I wanted the same thing, suddenly it was too expensive, inappropriate, or not necessary. She wanted piano lessons. My parents signed her up that week. I asked for art classes. We don't have the budget for that right now. It wasn't even subtle. Danny's bedroom had been redecorated 3 times before I even got to swap out the cartoon bedsheets I'd had since preschool. Her birthdays were full-blown parties with themes, gifts stacked to the ceiling, and attention from the whole family. A shared cake with whatever flavor she liked. If I complained, I was told to stop being difficult. She's just older. Let her have this. But what stung most wasn't what she got. It was how she treated me. Danny was born knowing how to manipulate people. If she broke something, she'd blame me. If she lost something, it was my fault. And no matter how much proof I had, my parents always backed her up. Always. I remember once, when we were around 10 and 11, she shoved me during an argument and I hit my head on the doorframe. When I started crying, she screamed that I'd attacked her. I was grounded for antagonizing her again. They even made me apologize. Over time, I stopped trying to defend myself. It was easier to just accept the punishment than to fight a battle I'd never win. But something started shifting when we reached our teens. Danny, who once had a whole crowd of girls fawning over her every move, began to lose them. I wasn't sure what happened. Maybe they got tired of her lies, or maybe they started seeing through the charm. Either way, she suddenly found herself alone at lunch, while I, shy, quiet, and a little artsy, began forming my own circle. That was the turning point. I'll never forget the day she overheard one of my friends telling me I was one of the nicest people in the school. She stared at us with a look I can only describe as murderous. That night, everything changed. Danny stopped ignoring me and became laser-focused on making my life hell. She started rumors that I was sleeping around, that I was stealing from people, that I was using my friendships for attention. Nothing stuck for long because people who knew me knew better. But still, the constant effort she put into dragging me down wore on me. And at home, she doubled down. I wasn't allowed to go out anymore. My mom would say, "Your sister thinks those girls are a bad influence." Or worse, "Why are you always trying to run away from your family? Danny loves spending time at home. Why can't you be more like her?" It was ironic. Danny had no interest in spending time with anyone unless she could benefit from it. Meanwhile, I was practically a prisoner in our house. My saving grace was my extended family. Aunts, uncles, cousins, they weren't blind. They saw the favoritism. They saw Danny's entitlement. At one holiday dinner, my younger cousin asked if I could come to her birthday party the next weekend. I told her, with a smile that didn't quite reach my eyes, "I don't think I'm allowed to go anywhere unless Danny goes too." My aunt overheard that. The fallout was nuclear. Apparently, she and a few other relatives confronted my parents after dinner. I wasn't there for it, but I heard the yelling from upstairs. The next day, my mom told me I was being punished for talking bad about the family. I was grounded for a month. But after that, something shifted. I was given more breathing room. Small freedoms. I was allowed to walk home from school alone, to go to the mall with a friend if I texted every hour. It was crumbs, but they were my crumbs. Danny, unsurprisingly, couldn't stand that I wasn't completely under her thumb anymore. She begged to transfer to another school in the next town over. Claimed she needed a fresh start. My parents, like always, granted her wish, even though it meant a longer commute and higher tuition. At her new school, she finally made friends again. But instead of focusing on herself, she continued her campaign against me. Her new friends would come over sometimes, and Danny made sure they joined in the teasing, which was a sanitized word for bullying. They'd comment on my clothes, mock my drawings, even take pictures of my room when I wasn't around. My parents, "They're just joking. Don't be so sensitive." So I stopped bringing friends over. I didn't want them exposed to my home. Instead, I clung to the few people I could trust. My cousins. Then came the boyfriend wars. My first boyfriend, Jeremy, was a sweet, slightly awkward guy who loved comic books and sci-fi. When my parents insisted he come over for dinner, I warned him. I told him my sister might be difficult. He shrugged it off. He didn't after that night. She flirted with him so blatantly that it bordered on parody. Tight top, sultry voice, fake laugh. It was nauseating. When he told her to stop, she pouted and immediately spun a story that he'd tried to kiss her in the hallway. My parents were furious. With me. "I can't believe you brought a boy like that into our house," my dad snapped. My mom nodded solemnly. Danny would never lie about something like this. Jeremy and I broke up 2 weeks later. Not because I believed he did anything wrong, but because the constant suspicion and tension became too much. It happened again with my second boyfriend. And again, Danny claimed he was obsessed with her. My parents believed her every time. Eventually, I stopped dating altogether. By the time Danny left for college, some second-tier school with no scholarship, I felt a cautious sense of relief. Maybe finally I could breathe. But she came home constantly. And every time, something would disappear from my room, or she'd accidentally spill juice on my clothes, or cry to my parents that I looked at her weird. She remained the victim. I remained the villain. I still studied hard though. I had no social life, no distractions, nothing to do but bury myself in textbooks. Because I knew college was my only way out. When it came time for me to graduate, my mother pulled me aside. "We've decided," she said, "that since we're already supporting your sister through college, we can't afford to do the same for you. It would be better if you started working. Maybe later when Danny graduates we can revisit it." I nodded. She looked surprised. "You're not upset?" "No," I said calmly. "Thanks for telling me." I think she wanted me to scream or cry, give her a reason to paint me as ungrateful. But I'd learned long ago how to swallow rage and turn it into something more productive. Because what she didn't know was that I had quietly applied for scholarships. And I got one. A full ride. Not to Harvard or Yale or anything flashy, but a solid university that respected my grades and gave me a chance. I posted about it on social media with a thank you to my parents, just vague enough to sound polite but firm enough to announce, "This happened in spite of you." For once, the family saw something they couldn't spin. And my parents had no choice but to act proud. The next phase of my life had begun. And I was finally starting to believe I could make it on my own. But the story doesn't end there. Because Danny wasn't done with me. And when it came time for my wedding, she decided she wanted to steal that too. I met Aaron in my last year of university. He was nothing like the guys I had known before. He was clever without being arrogant, kind without being a pushover, and most of all, he saw me. Not just my looks or my resume or the mask I had to wear around people. I mean, he saw who I really was under it all. The girl who used to hide her drawings under her bed. The girl who always expected betrayal. The girl who still jumped at the sound of her mother's ringtone. We started dating slowly at first. I warned him that my family was complicated. He just smiled and said, "So are all good origin stories." I didn't introduce him to my parents. Not for over a year. Even when we got engaged, I was hesitant to announce it publicly. I was still healing. Still wary. But Aaron insisted that we celebrate the joy. And for the first time in my life, I believed I deserved that. We sent out simple but elegant engagement announcements and picked a date. The ceremony would be modest. Nothing extravagant, just close friends and family. Most of his family lived out of state, but mine was still clumped in our hometown. Logistically, it made sense to do it there. Emotionally, not so much. But Aaron, ever the optimist, offered to meet my parents before the wedding. "Let's get it over with," he said. "Worst case scenario, we walk out with a great story." I agreed, but on one condition. I wouldn't leave him alone with them. He frowned at that. "You think they'll try something?" I nodded. "Not think." "No." He paused, then leaned in with a smirk. "Then let's beat them at their own game." He bought a discreet voice recorder and tucked it into his coat. He was actually excited. "This will be like collecting boss dialogue before the final battle," he joked. I expected the usual coldness, maybe some passive-aggressive jabs. What I didn't expect was what they actually proposed. Aaron came back from their house with wide eyes and a face caught between horror and hilarity. "Babe," he said, sitting beside me. "You're not going to believe what they just offered me." He pressed play on the recording. I heard my mother's voice first. Soft, faux sweet. "We've been thinking, it's a little improper, don't you think? For a younger sister to marry before the older one." Then my dad chimed in. "We're willing to help pay for your wedding. But we want Danny to walk down the aisle first." My stomach dropped. "She'll wear a wedding gown," my mother continued. We'll take pictures. Just a symbolic gesture, you understand. My dad added, she deserves the experience too. It's only fair. I couldn't speak. I just stared at the recorder like it had bitten me. Aaron paused it. Do you want me to say it? Say what? That we're burning the whole thing down. I blinked. Not literally, right? Not unless you want to. He smiled. But no. I have something better in mind. It was the first time in my life someone was angry for me. Not at me for me. Someone who didn't try to gaslight me, excuse them, or tell me to rise above. Someone who wanted revenge for what they tried to do. I didn't even have to ask. Aaron already had a plan. First it was wild. Multiple venues, fake start times, making Danny think she'd be the bride. But Aaron's older brother, more grounded and legally minded, talked us down from those ideas. Don't give them a lawsuit, he warned. Give them humiliation. So we found the perfect balance. Agree to their terms. Let them think they'd won. Let Danny fantasize about stealing my spotlight. Then crush the fantasy. We pretended to go along with it. Aaron went back to my parents and told them I didn't know anything. He played the dutiful future son-in-law. Said I was anxious and unpredictable, that I might go along with it if they sprung it on me at the right moment. They bought every word. He even said, she's so dramatic. If we surprise her at the altar, she'll be too flustered to object. My mom actually laughed and said, exactly. I should have been enraged. Instead, I was invigorated. I'd been powerless for so long. Finally, I had control. We continued the ruse for months. They wanted input on everything. Flowers, colors, catering. Aaron made sure to nudge Danny toward the most expensive options, then acted like he was denying them for my sake. That made her double down and insist my parents pay for upgrades. They agreed every time, eager to please her. We got the wedding we wanted, upgraded on their dime. They even tried to force a wedding dress on me. Something outdated and frilly, not at all my style. My mom texted me about it, which complicated things. We had to be careful what could be used against us. Aaron handled it. He went to their house and reluctantly agreed to their dress. Meanwhile, I bought my own and kept it hidden. There was even a point where Danny suggested sabotaging my gown so I'd be forced to wear hers. Aaron played along, pretending to weigh the pros and cons like a scheming villain. And then came the final piece of our plan. Security. We hired a firm to station someone at the entrance. His job was simple. Don't let Danny in if she arrived in a wedding dress. No yelling. No fuss. Just a calm, sorry, this venue is already hosting a bride today. We gave him a generous tip and clear instructions. He would be the first line of defense. On the day of the wedding, Danny was supposed to arrive just before me, walk down the aisle first and set the whole spectacle in motion. My dad would be waiting to escort her down, thinking I'd be shocked into silence once I walked in. But when they showed up and Danny was stopped at the door, everything unraveled. While chaos built outside, inside the music played. The doors opened. And there I was, in my real dress, holding my real bouquet, walking toward my real husband. My dad was standing at the front waiting for Danny. His expression twisted as I entered. He tried to look behind me, then at his phone, then back at me. He panicked. Mumbled something, turned and left. Someone whispered, "What just happened?" I whispered back. He said it wasn't supposed to be me. Gasps rippled through the room. My bridesmaid's friend, in on the plan, ran out of the ceremony dramatically, saying she'd find out what was going on. Just more misdirection to keep everyone confused, and to stop my dad from returning. My father left the building. My mother followed, and I kept walking. When I reached Aaron, he squeezed my hand and whispered, "You look like revenge." I whispered back, "I feel like it." We stood before our guests, ready to say our vows as the fallout unfolded just beyond the walls. I didn't need to hear Danny scream. I didn't need to see her face. I knew exactly what was happening. And for once, it wasn't happening to me. It was happening to them. The ceremony went on. My father was gone, my mother had vanished, and half the guests were still in their seats, whispering, confused. But I stood there with Aaron, holding it together because we had planned for this. Aaron's father, fully in the loop, stepped forward in place of mine and walked me down the aisle without missing a beat. He looked proud, fierce, even like he was making a statement to everyone in the room. This is how you protect someone you love. I didn't know it at the time, but while I was walking that aisle, My sister was outside in a full-blown meltdown. She had arrived in a white rhinestone-laced gown, clutching a bouquet, fully prepared to walk down the aisle like it was her show. But our hired security guard blocked her casually, as if she were some random stranger crashing a party. "I'm the bride," she allegedly said. The security guard blinked. "We already have a bride inside, ma'am." According to multiple people who saw it, she went from 0 to 60 in about 5 seconds. Screaming, crying, accusing him of ruining her big moment. She even tried to shove past him, but he didn't budge. That's when my dad stormed up and started yelling, "This is my daughter. Let her through. She's supposed to be in there first." The guard just raised an eyebrow and offered to call the police. Happy to explain to them why a second woman in a bridal gown is trying to crash the ceremony. That stalled them just enough for our friend, the one we planted in the audience, to run outside, pretend to be shocked and start loudly asking questions. "What's going on? Is she in a wedding dress? What is this?" She wasn't there to help them. She was there to stall, create confusion, and keep them from stopping the actual wedding. Guests trickled outside to witness the chaos. Some started filming. Some just stood back stunned. Meanwhile, inside, Aaron and I exchanged vows. It was perfect. Simple, emotional, and, for the first time in my life, I was the one being celebrated. No one interrupted us. No one took the spotlight. And just before the kiss, Aaron leaned in and whispered, "I think we broke your family." I smiled. "Then let's make it official." We were pronounced husband and wife. We kissed. The crowd inside erupted in applause. And outside, my mother had joined the madness, shrieking at our friend, at the security guard, at anyone who would listen. She demanded that my sister be let in, that someone fix this, that we respect the original plan. But when people started asking what exactly the original plan was, they had no good answer. Because the truth was insane. Letting one daughter walk down the aisle at her sister's wedding? Wearing a bridal gown? What were they supposed to say? That they thought it was fair? They flailed. They tried turning it around, saying Aaron had agreed to everything and then betrayed them. But Aaron played dumb flawlessly. When he was eventually called outside, he walked out with concern written all over his face. "Is everything okay?" he asked. My dad pointed a shaking finger at him. "You lied to us. You said Elena agreed." Aaron blinked. Agreed to what? To let Danny walk first. Aaron looked around at the small crowd of stunned relatives. Then he laughed. "You actually told people that was your plan?" He turned to one of my uncles. "Would you let your daughter do that to her sister?" The uncle shook his head. "Absolutely not." My mom stammered. "It was symbolic." Aaron's smile didn't waver. "Then why the dress? The flowers? The photographer?" They had no response. He shrugged. "Look, I don't know what kind of game you were trying to play, but I never agreed to anything like that. And if you can't prove otherwise, maybe you should stop embarrassing yourselves." My sister lost it. She sat on the ground, sobbing, legs kicking like a toddler. "She stole my moment," she screamed. "She always ruins everything for me." Someone whispered, "Isn't this Elena's wedding?" The crowd started turning. You could feel it, how public opinion was shifting. These weren't strangers. These were family, friends, witnesses. And none of them were buying the performance anymore. That was the beauty of our plan. Everything they had done, everything they had expected to get away with in the dark, was now being exposed in daylight in front of people who used to believe they were decent. There were no text messages, no emails. Aaron had made sure to keep everything verbal, everything off the record. So all they had were their wild accusations. And the only thing more humiliating than being exposed is not being believed. Eventually they were asked to leave. My dad tried to argue, but the venue staff stepped in. And just like that, they were gone. My sister had to be dragged to the car, sobbing, dress filthy, makeup running. The celebration inside? It was surreal. For once, I wasn't just tolerated, I was adored. Guests came up to me offering congratulations, complimenting my gown, asking about our honeymoon plans. No one brought up what had happened directly. But you could feel the shift. I wasn't the background character anymore. People were seeing me for who I was. One cousin whispered, "You know they're probably hiding under a rock right now." I just smiled. Aaron meanwhile was floating. He had spent the entire day beaming. Not just because we got married, but because justice had finally been served. He leaned over during dinner and said, I wish we could have had the DJ play a track for her meltdown. Like dramatic violin or something. I laughed. Next time. He raised an eyebrow. Next time. Anniversary party, I clarified. That night we checked into our hotel. We were supposed to leave for Europe the next morning. My parents had offered to buy our plane tickets weeks ago. We said no. Too risky. They could have cancelled them out of spite. Or claimed they never agreed. We didn't trust them with anything anymore. Instead we paid ourselves, packed light and left early the next day with no forwarding address. But they weren't done. The messages started coming before we even landed. By the time we landed in Venice, my phone had already blown up. Missed calls. Voicemails. Texts. From my mom, my dad, and of course Danny. The first message was from my mother. We need to talk. This has gone too far. Call us back immediately. Then my father, you embarrassed us in front of everyone. Do you even care what you've done to your sister? And finally Danny. A 7-paragraph unhinged rant alternating between blaming me for ruining her life and accusing Aaron of being a manipulative snake who tricked our entire family. She even said, this part still makes Aaron cackle, that Aaron was probably cheating on me with her and that, maybe he only married you out of pity because he knew I was the one he actually wanted. We sat at a cafe along the canal, sipping espresso while I read her delusions aloud. Aaron nearly choked laughing. Then he took my phone and got to work. He had planned this too. Not specifically for Venice, but for after the wedding. The post-fallout. The smear campaign. The desperate scramble from my parents and Danny to rewrite the story before it spread any further. Step 1. Screenshots. He saved everything. Every missed call, every voicemail transcript, every deranged text. He took particular joy in preserving Danny's claims that he was in love with her. Step 2. Exposure. He opened our extended family group chat, where dozens of relatives were still buzzing about the wedding, and dumped the evidence in one glorious batch. Message 1. A screenshot of Danny's meltdown. Message 2. The string of missed calls and voicemails from my parents. Message 3. A formal-sounding note from Aaron himself. Dear family, I hate to bring drama into this space, but unfortunately, Elena and I are being harassed on what's supposed to be our honeymoon. We're receiving dozens of calls and texts, some threatening, some bizarre, from her immediate family, including accusations that I am having an affair with her sister, I am not, and demands that we explain ourselves for not letting Danny walk down the aisle at our wedding in a bridal gown. Yes, that was apparently their plan. I want to be clear, at no point did I agree to this. Elena never agreed to it. And if you've heard otherwise, I suggest you ask for proof, because they don't have any. They were not sabotaged. They were exposed. And we are done being quiet about it. If you want to talk to us, we welcome kindness and clarity. But we won't be answering calls from people who try to excuse what happened. Please don't share our location. We'd like to enjoy what's left of our honeymoon in peace. It was surgical. Almost instantly, people in the chat began reacting. Some with shocked emojis, others typing messages like, "This is disgusting," or, "I had no idea it was that bad." One of my aunts responded, "Elena, I always thought your parents were a bit off, but I never imagined it was like this. I'm so sorry." A cousin chimed in, "Wait, they really tried to have Danny walk down the aisle first? In a wedding dress? That's psycho." That word, psycho, showed up a lot that day. And then, silence. From my parents. From Danny. No more calls. No more texts. They vanished like smoke after a house fire. Aaron leaned back and looked satisfied. I guess they finally realized the gaslighting wouldn't work this time. I nodded. Or they're too busy trying to come up with the next lie. Still, it felt like a weight lifted. Years of being dismissed, ignored, and scapegoated, all of it finally exposed. Aaron wrapped his arm around me and whispered, "They can't touch you anymore. You're free." And for the first time in my life, I believed it. We spent the next week hopping through cities. Florence, Rome, Amalfi, letting go of the past with every mile. I deleted every old voicemail from my parents. I blocked Danny on everything. I changed my number. And when we came home, we made it clear to everyone, we weren't going backward. No holiday visits. No polite dinners. No forgiveness just because time passed. I wasn't bitter. I wasn't holding a grudge. But I was done sacrificing my peace for people who had never once protected mine. Aaron respected that. He didn't ask me to call them. He didn't suggest reconciliation. He just told me, whenever you're ready, if you're ever ready, I'll be beside you. But if you never want to speak to them again, that's fine too. That's when I knew I married the right person. Danny, unsurprisingly, didn't stay quiet for long. About a month later, she showed up in the comments section of a cousin's Instagram post, posting vague things like, "Must be nice to have everyone believe your lies, and enjoy your fake little fairy tale." She even created a burner account to message me directly. This one said, "You'll never be happy. You're still that sad little girl trying to win." I didn't respond. But Aaron did. From his account, he posted one simple reply under the cousin's post. "Real queens don't need to steal crowns to feel royal." Got over 80 likes. Danny deleted her comments the next morning. We didn't hear from her again. A few months passed. Life was quiet, which for me was a completely new feeling. Not the kind of silence that hangs in the air after a fight, or the uneasy calm when someone's plotting something. I mean real peace. Aaron and I settled into our new apartment. We both returned to work. I started taking on freelance illustration jobs in the evenings, something I'd always wanted to do but never thought I was good enough for. But Aaron kept reminding me, "They made you feel small. That doesn't mean you are." We hosted small dinners with his friends, made a weekly tradition of Sunday morning hikes, and for the first time in my adult life I felt like I was actually allowed to build something for myself, without anyone trying to knock it down. As for my parents and Danny, they stayed silent. The group chat remained active, but they didn't contribute. Holidays came and went without invitations. My aunts and uncles stopped asking if I'd seen them. One cousin even told me, "They still pretend like the wedding never happened." It was surreal. You'd think someone would try to apologize, or at least explain. But no. They just disappeared into their shame. Or worse, their delusion. A part of me, I'll admit, kept waiting for something. A letter. A voicemail. One of those long-winded texts that starts with, "I've been thinking." But no. Nothing. I started wondering why. Why did they treat me like that for so long? Why did they favor Danny so obviously? Why did I always feel like an extra in the story of my own life? I had asked myself these questions for years, but now, after everything, I was finally ready to face them without breaking. And honestly, I still don't have a solid answer. I've tried theories. Maybe I was the unplanned child. My parents had Danny after years of trying, so she was their miracle, their center. And then I came along too soon, too close, ruining the perfect family photo before it could dry. Maybe my existence felt like a burden to them from day one. Or maybe it was just easier to pick a villain. Danny was louder, more fragile, more demanding. I was quieter, more self-contained. Maybe they just assumed I could handle more, so they gave me less. Whatever the reason, it doesn't matter anymore. Because even if they had a perfect excuse, some painful sob story about stress or pressure or generational trauma, it still wouldn't erase what they did. And I'm no longer in the business of rationalizing cruelty. Some people don't need more chances. They need boundaries. So I built them. Thick, high, and reinforced. I changed my number permanently. We moved cities a year later. I scrubbed my social media and created a new one under a different name for my art. Aaron still posts on his, but we no longer tag each other. Our life is private. Protected. Aaron still jokes about printing Danny's old message. He's a two-faced snake who tricked our entire family, on a canvas to hang in our hallway. One day I just might let him. Some of our friends still ask about the wedding. "Is that story real?" they say wide-eyed. We just laugh and say, "Oh yeah." Every word. And it feels good to own it. To take a story that once would have haunted me and turn it into something empowering. Sometimes people ask me if I regret how it all went down. The answer is no. I don't regret the revenge. I don't regret the plan. I don't regret letting my sister show up in a white dress only to be turned away like a delusional movie villain. Because for once she didn't get what she wanted. And I did. I got married. I got peace. I got my voice back. And maybe most importantly, I got to stop being the family scapegoat and start being the main character of my own life. Aaron and I still talk about it from time to time. Mostly to laugh. But every now and then he looks at me and says something like, "You're not the girl they told you you were. You never were." And I believe him. Because he's the first person who never made me prove my worth. He just saw it. That's the kind of love you don't throw away trying to please people who never clapped for you when you won. So no, I don't have a relationship with my parents anymore. And Danny? Well, she still lives at home last I heard. Still working at the same office job my mom got her. Still dating no one seriously. Still blaming everyone but herself. I used to feel sorry for her. Now I just feel nothing. And honestly, that's even better. Because indifference, I've learned, is the real freedom.